In a vast, empty field, a confused knight called Diaz wonders if he's getting pranked. Over a month ago, he had returned home from a successful victory in war. As a reward, the king of his nation granted him a large domain of his own to live in and manage. Now, Diaz realizes that he got scammed since the king basically kicked him out of the capital to live in a giant patch of empty land. With no further instructions from the king, Diaz thinks he's free, so he wanders around the field searching for food and other resources. After a short while, he comes across a clear stream and enjoys the refreshing water from it. Then, he continues to search the land until it's night. Having found no food or resources, he lies down to rest, thinking that he'll leave the domain if the entire region is empty. The next morning, an Oni girl called Alna interrupts his sleep, kicking him and demanding to know what he's doing in her land. Diaz gets confused since there was nobody around him the other day. She doesn't care about his confusion and keeps interrogating him to learn his origins. Diaz tells her that he's literally homeless, so the girl gets skeptical of him. She asks him what he was doing in her land anyway, so he truthfully explains that he was sent by someone to live there. He then tells her that his only current goal is to survive until the next day. As Alna refuses to believe him, Diaz tells her about his dreams. He explains that his late parents asked him to help others and protect the weak as their final wish, which he took as his dream goal. Although Alna expected Diaz to be lying about his noble goal, her horn starts glowing blue, which forces her to believe him. In contrast, Diaz is a pure man, and he doesn't understand why the girl was suspecting him. She asks him if he's a friend or an enemy, but he reminds her that he's neither of those things since they've both just met. For some reason, Diaz's reasonable words just make her even angrier. He wonders why she's so frustrated. Then, he remembers that she's living in her domain, so she's one of his own subjects. Thinking that the girl is testing his sincerity to his subjects, he seriously declares that he is her loyal ally to comfort her. He promises to protect the girl from her enemies, no matter who they are, which causes her horn to shine radiantly. Even the girl is surprised by the intensity of Diaz's sincerity, and she suddenly drags him away somewhere. Soon, they enter a village of Anas. Diaz wonders why he couldn't find the village earlier, but he's given no time to react, as the girl drags him to her chief's house. Inside, the chieftain is surprised that Alna brought an outsider, since she's usually very careful around strangers. Alna tells her that her horn never turned red, and instead glowed a brilliant blue as he declared himself an ally. Hearing this, the chieftain asks Diaz if he will become her ally as well. He accepts, saying that he's the ally of everyone living in the village. However, when Diaz starts to explain that the king sent him, Alna gets up in a rage and points an arrow at him. The chieftain stops her since they haven't heard Diaz's full story, but she also glares at him and demands a full explanation. He stays calm under the threat and explains that his parents always told him to help others and protect the weak. Since they passed away early, Diaz was left an orphan. He gathered the other orphans in town to live together, and they survived by performing small chores and hunting weak monsters. As Diaz grew older, a war broke out with the neighboring nation, so he took his fighting skills to the battlefield. There, he displayed an incredible natural talent for fighting, so he quickly rose through the ranks. After 20 years of a bitter war, Diaz returned victorious, and the king granted him this empty domain as a reward. The chieftain nods, believing that he's sincere about ruling his domain. She then asks him if he'd still be her ally if she and her people were not subjects of his kingdom. Diaz smiles, saying that he'll still protect her as a neighbor. At his words, the chieftain's horn also glows blue, so Alna lowers her bow. Diaz wonders why she asked him such a strange question, and then he realizes something. The chieftain agrees, admitting that she and her people are not his subjects. In fact, her tribe is actually the enemy of his kingdom. Despite their circumstances, the chieftain thinks Diaz can be her ally since his aura is so blue. Before he decides to do anything, she asks him to hear her out. After introducing herself as Mal, she explains that her people were kicked out of the grassland over 50 years ago. Ever since then, they've been at war with his kingdom, trying to win their land back. Diaz wonders how they can live undetected within the kingdom's domain, so she explains that her species can use magic stored within their horns. To demonstrate, she goes invisible with a spell, leaving him stunned. Then, she also reveals that her people can easily conceal their entire village with the same magic. Diaz finally understands why he couldn't detect the village before, but he wonders why Mal is exposing such sensitive information chieftain to him. The chieftain smiles, saying that she wouldn't have trusted him if her horn didn't glow blue. It turns out that the Anis can detect the intentions of other species by relying on their horns. If a person has no bad intentions towards them, their horns remain colorless. However, if they have malicious intentions, their horns would turn red to warn them. Sometimes, a person might cause a blue glow, which means they are friendly towards the Oni people. Despite this, if the good-intentioned person begins to have evil intentions, the horn would immediately taint the blue color with red. Since Dayas never caused their horns to show the slightest shade of red, she thinks he's a completely trustworthy person. In fact, she thinks he's a simple-minded fool because he's still trying to honor his dead parents' wishes. Although Dayas is confused, Mal offers to help him rule his domain, promising to give him a house, some food, and some livestock to begin his life. In return, she hopes that he can keep her village secret from the king. Dayas accepts her offer and promises to protect her people as long as they don't threaten his kingdom. Mal is satisfied with his attitude, so she orders Alna to go with him and show him the ways of their village. Alna nods at first, but then she gets shocked after realizing her orders. Mal reminds her that she brought Dayas in the first place, so it's her job to look after him. Though she is frustrated, Alna agrees. Afterward, she goes out with Dayas and gets some villagers to build a house for him. In just a few hours, the villagers efficiently build a house with a wooden structure. Dayas is surprised by their speed, so Alne explains that her people aren't always able to hide. For this reason, they build their houses with lightweight structures so they can be easily removed in case of an emergency. Once the house is set up, Alna tells him that the food and livestock will be sent to him later. She offers to help him with the livestock later, so Dayas thanks her. However, he feels a bit concerned about the number of subjects in his territory and asks her if she's got a way to increase their population. Alna doesn't understand why he even wants more subjects, especially since food is limited in their empty land. She asks him how he'd take care of an increasing population, so Dayas realizes his mistake. She then gives him a bag of strange dust, explaining that it's a special bait that can attract wild animals. Alna tells Dayas to take the dust and spread it away from the village, and she explains that he can earn more money for every beast he gets. The brawny-headed Dayas smiles, happy to get a job that requires muscles instead of brains. A few minutes later, after going out for a good distance, he decides it is finally time to start hunting. However, since Alna never told him how much dust to use, he just spreads the entire bag like an idiot. This attracts an entire herd of wild cattle, but Dayas is only excited by the challenge. He lifts his axe and welcomes the herd, tearing through the beasts as if they're nothing. After hunting half a herd, the rest of the beasts run away, so Dayas is left with the corpses of their beloved relatives. Unfortunately, he finally remembers that he also has to carry the heavy beasts back home. Without a wagon to transport them, he leaves the other beasts behind and carries just a single one. As Dayas walks home, he feels worried that Alna will be upset with him, since she easily gets annoyed by his antics. To his surprise, she is pleased to see the giant beast, since meat is a rare resource in her village. Seeing his disappointed look, Alna wonders what's wrong, so he explains that he had to leave over 3 dozen beasts behind. Hearing how strong he is, she is shocked and instantly rethinks her opinion of him. Mal comes out as well and praises Dayas for his manly display. Alna agrees, and she runs off to alert the villagers so they can carry the rest of the beasts back. Dayas wonders what Mal means by manliness, so she explains that it's simply a man's ability to work. The more a man is able to work and earn, the manlier he is in the eyes of her tribe's women. After learning this, Dayas understands why Alne seems so pleased with him, but he thinks that looks and personality matter as well. Mal disagrees, saying that neither looks nor personality put food on the table. Dayas understands where she's coming from. He realizes that for a small tribe, food and survival are the only important things compared to the people living in the kingdom. Then, Mal tells him that he'll need to work a bit harder if he wants to marry a beauty like Alne. He gets embarrassed and acts like that wasn't his intention, so she starts teasing him even more. The next day, Dayas wakes up from the smell of fresh breakfast in his room. He finds Alna cooking for him, smiling in a completely submissive manner compared to earlier. After having breakfast, he praises her cooking, which causes her to blush. Watching him eat so closely, Alna is unable to bear the tension, so she changes the topic to hunting again. She explains that her tribe still needs a well for water and an outhouse to host guests, which will help Diaz expand his domain. However, the village does not have enough money to pay the craftsmen, so Diaz agrees to hunt for them. Alna asks him to hunt some monsters, so he thinks about it. Although monster meat is toxic and inedible, their rare materials sell for incredible prices. Diaz agrees to hunt, wondering if the peaceful grassland even has any monsters. Alna reveals that she can sense monsters with her magic horn, but Diaz refuses to put her in danger. However, she insists on going with him, so he agrees to take her. Later, as Diaz takes care of his cattle, some village men bring over food and blankets for him. Feeling the respect from them, he realizes that this village truly cares about the men who can protect them. Just then, Alna comes out of his hut after preparing for the journey. Diaz realizes that she's put on some makeup, while the other men get jealous of him. Meanwhile, Alna smiles, saying that the other men will take care of the cattle while they're out hunting. Both of them move out, and after reaching a rocky hill, Alna chants her magic to scout for monsters. A strange blue light surrounds her, which alerts her to the location of a nearby monster. Diaz nods and tells Alna to hide while he hunts the beast, but she refuses. Instead, she offers to help him while using her concealment, so he agrees to let her fight. After a short while, they find the monster, which looks like a giant turtle. Alna's eyes grow wide with shock, since she knows it's actually an earth dragon. However, Diaz doesn't share her fear. Despite her warnings, he jumps out to fight and tells her to remain behind. As the dragon notices him, he jumps on its back and whacks its hard shell. The impact fails to leave a single scratch, and instead breaks the tip of his axe. Diaz tries to attack the dragon's weak points, but it retreats into its shell for defense. Alna suggests running away while he still has the chance, since an earth dragon can wipe out an entire troop of men on its own. Diaz refuses to run since he's still got more tricks up his sleeve. He decides to whack the same spot until it cracks, and begins hammering away at the turtle's back. After a while of banging his axe uselessly, the blade starts cracking. Alna gets worried for him, but Diaz remains confident in his weapon. Since his axe is a special weapon used by a former shogun, it possesses the ability to repair light damage using a mending spell. However, Diaz can only force it to quickly repair itself with magic, so he mends it in front of Alna's shocked eyes. He then continues to pound the dragon's back relentlessly. Eventually, the toxic miasma radiating from the dragon condenses into the area, and Alna starts to feel sick. Realizing she's in danger, he agrees to leave after leaving a final strike. To his surprise, his final hit actually breaks through the dragon's shell. Enraged, the creature gets out of its shell and blows a fireball at him. Diaz dodges the fireball and slashes at the dragon's weak legs. As he prepares to attack, he realizes that the dragon has spotted Alna. Knowing that it's outmatched against Diaz, the clever monster targets her instead. Enraged by its audacity, Diaz jumps into the sky and plunges hard on the dragon, tearing through its spine and killing it. Alna immediately tears up at his display of bravery and rushes into his arms. Before Diaz can process her hug, she immediately declares that they're getting married. That was episode 1. Subscribe to not miss the next part and watch the next video on screen.